Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Go Comedy. It's now time for Let's Just Say. Please welcome your host, Amy O'Brien.
Hello, thank you everyone for coming. This is such a wonderful turnout. Welcome to Let's Just Say, Go Comedy's monthly storytelling night. Tonight we're going to hear a lot of stories, and the theme for this month is firsts. Just real quick, a show of hands, who has been to a storytelling night like this before? Okay, so like most of you. Okay, cool. So just for the people who haven't, what you're about to see, I'm about to introduce everyone individually. They're going to come up and they're going to tell you a true story from their life. And it could be, just because we're in Go Comedy doesn't mean it's necessarily going to be funny. It could be serious or heartfelt or funny or all the above. The only thing that they're going to have in common is the theme, which again is firsts. There's kind of past that, it's whatever they want to talk about. There is a time limit, which is 7 minutes. And I have to regulate with an iron fist. I have this tiny harmonica that I will use when they reach their time limit, which is just going to wrap it up. Other than that, I think that's all you need to know, and I'm going to get us started. I have a story to tell, and it involves high school, which I don't talk about a lot because not a lot of good things happen in high school, but there was this one time. It was senior year, and me and my high school boyfriend David had decided to get a band together for the sole purpose of playing old rock songs in the fall talent show. And so David was a really good guitar player. He owned an Epiphone Casino, which was John Lennon's guitar. And he also had an actual bowl cut because he loved the Beatles that much. It was not a cool haircut, but that's how much he loved them. And so obviously he was going to play guitar. I owned a bass guitar, I think like every person in high school, and I was well versed in reading bass guitar tabs on the internet. So clearly, like, I was going to be the bass player. And then we convinced David's friend Sean Sean, who had like perfect later Beatles sideburns, to be our singer, despite the fact that like he told us over and over again that he might bail like right before we went on stage because he had such stage fright. And we were like, that probably won't happen. No, you're in. You look like our singer. And for the drummer, we were kind of we didn't have any options for our retro vibe, so we settled on Matt, who played drums exactly like the guy from Limp Bizkit. It was 2002, so like Limp Bizkit technically was more popular than the Beatles. It was a really dark time, some of you might recall. So we had our band, and so the tryouts for the talent show were just 2 days before the talent show. It was all very informal, and so because we were procrastinating seniors, by the time tryouts came, we hadn't even decided what songs we were going to play, let alone rehearse. But David's like, it's fine. When it's our turn to go up, I'll just go on stage and like mess around on my guitar and be like a placeholder. But then that day, we'll all be on stage playing. And that's what he did. He went on stage and just acted like this was our act. And he like very seriously started playing Blackbird by the Beatles, obviously. And but he wasn't the only person on stage. Just the front part of the stage was being used for tryouts, and behind it was a big like auditorium like stage, and behind there were other people kind of milling around and rehearsing their acts before they went up. And so it just so happened that directly behind him there were break dancers rehearsing their routine. And so like essentially David played Blackbird, this solemn acoustic song, and there was a bunch of people breakdancing to it. And I'm like watching this and I'm laughing, like no one else is even noticing the funny scene happening. And I have this this great idea, and I suddenly want to do another act in the talent show, and I run and I fill out a form, which is what you had to do, and I ask the teacher, Foster, who's in charge of the talent show, like, I don't have it ready right now, but can I do this other thing? It'll be ready in 2 days. And he said yes, because he was very old, and it was fine. And also, like, I don't know if it's still like this, but seniors just do kind of what they want in high school. Like, old teacher plus seniors, it was, yeah. So, the day of the talent show comes. And the band that we had made ended up playing Love Me Two Times by The Doors and All Day and All Night by The Kinks, because those are songs you can learn in one night. And so that's why we played those. And The Doors, it went fairly well, but by the time we started with The Kinks, Sean's stage fright just like got the best of him, and he forgot all the words, and he just started screaming at the top of his lungs for the whole song. So it was like death metal Kinks. And it just made it so much better than anything we could have hoped for. So one victory down. Okay, so then later in the talent show, it's time for my idea. And my idea is a sketch starring David, myself, and our friend Jason. And remember, this was inspired by breakdancers. So Jason comes out first, and he's just really serious, and he sits on a stool and he says, this is a love song I wrote. And he starts playing this very sad little love song ditty on his acoustic guitar. And behind him, David and I are having a picnic. We start having a picnic, and we have this whole silent scene behind him. First with us, like, flirting and being in love, and he gives me flowers, and then he says something wrong, and so we get into this, like, blistering fight, and we're just, like, tearing from one end of the stage to the other, and at one point we're standing over Jason, like, fighting, and, like, Jason, it's silent, so Jason's just, like, wistfully staring off into space, and the crowd, which is just our classmates, they're like in the palm of our hands. Like when we're flirting, they're like, woo! And when we're fighting, they're cracking up. And then when we finally make up, everyone cheers. And that wasn't my first time being funny on stage, but it was my first time performing something that I had come up with. And it kind of gave me a clue of like what I'm supposed to be doing on stage, because no one cares if I can read bass guitar tabs past high school. And being in plays is cool, but for me the joy is being spontaneous and coming up with things myself. So I want to, and I remember when it went so well, I had this, it was like it felt so good, it was like a new feeling, like I never felt anything like that before. So I want to shout out to David, wherever he is. I'll pretend that I haven't ever Facebook stalked him and I don't know already. And also, shout out to Centerline High School for loving that first idea, because it set me on this path. So that's my first story. Are matching and just, yeah. Okay, so now let's get to the part where I'm not talking. Our first storyteller is a friend of mine. She is a recovering entrepreneur turned small business loan officer / sometimes stand-up comedian. Please welcome Amanda Bruin.
Not this tall, but this is still short. I'm not tall, Amy. I'm also cold. You have no sleeves. That's why I thought the whole time. I'm like, Anyway, hey guys, how's it going? Thursdays in Ferndale. Woo! All right, so I was a really anxious child. Anxiety was ingrained into me from the beginning. From my parents, from the news, from teachers. Everyone just told me, if you screw up one time, it could ruin everything. And this was enforced. My parents were divorced. Family members died unexpectedly. I got a C in handwriting in 3rd grade. I mean, you could fuck it up, right? And then the news was like, even if you don't fuck it up, something sudden and scary could happen. Like you could get robbed, or you could get cancer, or like in a fatal car accident. It could all be over. And so I was a really anxious child. And finally, after some time apart from my comfort zone of, where you live from birth to 18 years, not blaming my parents for everything, but it was a weird place. I lived on my own in college, and I started to live without adults around, and started to unwind and think, maybe one false move won't ruin everything. That could be cool. Started to take risks and didn't die. It was kind of amazing. So in 2008, 10 years ago, which that was weird to write down, it just made me feel old, but in 2008 I had just graduated from college, and I decided to go to New York, because I had friends from college who lived in New York, and frankly, I probably wasn't going to know them forever. They probably couldn't afford to live in New York forever, so I was going to seize the opportunity and go to College Music Journal's music festival, which is kind of like New York's version of South by Southwest. Like music industry, cool venues, bands usually don't see. Super hip thing to do when you're 22 and just out of college. So I try to go to New York the cheapest way possible. I book an Amtrak train, which is the worst idea ever. I was on a train for 5 years. I don't know what happened. I got up, I was like, I'm gonna get a blood clot again. The anxiety came back. But it didn't, it was fine. So I got an Amtrak train ticket. I booked a tentative floor to sleep on, and I volunteered at CMJ for badge privileges. So, all right, I bought a map, because it was 2008. My phone was still a phone, so I had to buy a map. Bought a map, and I explored what a city that's built on a grid, that has mass transit, that's functioning. It was really amazing. Still really amazing that can happen. I live in Detroit. So I started to understand how that worked, and by the 3rd day I kind of knew where I was, which was exciting. And I navigated from the train station to my friend Kate's apartment in Bed-Stuy. It was a 2nd floor walk up, and I showed up, and all the couches in her apartment, her 1-bedroom apartment, so a couch and a half, had been claimed by band members from out of town and their girlfriends. Even the rug was claimed, so I ended up sleeping on a cold hardwood floor about less than 2 feet from a cat pan. It's real. That's shit you'll do when you're 22 that I would never fucking do now. So I volunteer for badge privileges. I show up in Manhattan at this Catholic church that was still a functioning Catholic church, but somehow also CMJ badge pickup. I don't know. It was a weird experience. People there were either New Yorkers doing it for access to cool things or bragging rights, and then there were some old people who were volunteering it that I think were just the family members, the girl running it, because they didn't give a shit about Crystal Castles or any of the bands that were really cool then that you probably have never heard of now. So I hung out at badge pickup, and the second day I was there, all my friends, everybody I knew, the 3 people I knew in New York, were all going to be at the show in Manhattan. So I left my volunteer position, I took multiple trains, a cab, I walked a bit, and I ended up at Pianos on the Lower East Side. And I was okay, I made it. I'm cool, I made it. I'm in New York. I'm alone, but my friends are in there. This is happening. So I walk to Pianos, and there's all these people yelling and smoking, and it was really daunting at the time. But in hindsight, these people could have been my friends if it had been Michigan. But I didn't see any familiar faces. So I just walked past this crowded group, and then kind of just walked past them to the door, and this guy goes, hey, we're at capacity. We're at capacity. And I said, but my friends are in there. He said, sorry about your luck. He was gonna give a shit that my friends were in there. So I started to panic. The anxiety came back that I was overcoming. I was oh my God, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna hang out outside? Am I gonna go hang out in a diner and buy a $12 grilled cheese? Because it's New York in 2008. That's how much it cost, I looked. So I started to just get this anxiety, and I started to just slowly walk away. And the answer to all my problems was right there. It was like a 1992 burgundy burned out conversion van parked by a door, and people, musicians, not roadies, because this was like CMJ, they're like people who barely could afford to get to New York, they're like unloading their stuff out of this van and walking into this door, and then other people are walking out of the door, and no one seems to be like keeping track of what the hell's going on, and so I'm like, this is my in. So I watched this guy pick up like 3 beat up guitar cases and out of the van, and he's walking towards the door and he's like almost dropping them, and this other guy with blonde spiky hair who has a girl on his arms, and he's not paying attention to anything but her. He's holding the door, he's walking out, and I just yelled, "Hey! Hold that door!" And he's like, hands me the door. I'm holding the door, guitar guy, 3 guitar case guy walks past, and I just walk right in right behind him. Really close, like closer than you would to a stranger, but it's New York, so there's like no space bubble. Learned that in the train. So I walk in right behind him, and I just am like, I got this, you know? So like I just walk in, nobody says shit to me, no one asks, no one's like, hey you, like no one says anything. And I'm just like, oh, this is happening, I'm doing this. And I like, in a blurred moment, I like see my friends at the bar, and I just beeline to them, and I walk in, and I'm like, in that moment, I'm like, run up to them, you're good. And I'm like, hey guys! And they're like, how did you get in? This is sold out, this is a capacity. Like, so-and-so's boyfriends were trying to get in for 2 hours. And I'm like, just walked in the side door. No big deal. And that was like, it was my first trip to New York alone, but it was also my first time experiencing the like, fake it till you fucking make it. And the older I get, the more I realize that's what everyone's doing. All the time. So just do it. And be polite. Hold doors for people. Because it might get you in. That's my story.
That's Amanda. So I believe the next person's gonna not want the mic stand. This gentleman is a stand-up comedian. He hosts a storytelling night called The Comfort Zone at Trixie's Bar. Sometimes it falls on the same night as this storytelling night, so we have dueling storytelling nights. But not tonight, because he's here. Please welcome Jason Brent.
Woo! It's hard for me to describe myself as a single man, because it's really been a decade since I had my last relationship. So that's really more like alone, right? So, I know why it's been that long, because not that long ago I was in a bar talking to a really wonderful, beautiful woman, and she stopped the conversation to just say, I just want to thank you for being the only one in here not flirting with me. I don't really think that was an option. I was like, I'm just having a good time being out with someone who's just not another dude I know. So when someone asked me to go out recently, I was like, oh, first date. I don't do that much. So let's see where this goes. We met at a Middle Eastern restaurant, which is probably the ideal first date place for someone who doesn't make a lot of money. So I go sit down, you get the standard first date conversation interview questions going, so I just get right into where I live. I just moved to Hamtramck. I know it's one of those cities Fox News says to be afraid of because Muslims still exist. It was really fine. I just met my new neighbors too. They're some hot black dudes who just eat beef soup all day, judging from the smells. They seem nice. I did live in a place off of 8 Mile, like the movie from the Mom Spaghetti. That was a good time. I don't have any roommates now, but I did then, and having a roommate taught me that anything you do for the first time, you should just embrace it and count it as a milestone. And that lesson came when I peed on that roommate's cat. I know she had that same reaction, like, what? Like, oh, the cat was already in the toilet that I was about to use, and it scratched me every time I touched it. I was like, cat, you know what I'm going to do here, cat, so let's just see. And I ended up peeing on a cat. I know, guys, like, as an adult man, I know I made a decision to be ashamed of that story or not, but the cat didn't mind. So, keep going. We got to the part of the first date where we swapped some recent ex stories. As I established, I don't have any of those. I mean, like, I could be like, I had someone I didn't think I was going out with said I need space from you right now. The day before she said that, we were out drinking in public, just playing on Seesaw, so I thought I was still just a good time. I did, before that I had someone say, I don't want a relationship, when all I did was ask if they wanted to go to a different bar, like one that served food for once. So that's not the question I asked. I just want a cheeseburger with that PBR sometimes. That was a fun moment because a couple days after she said that, I ran into her on her way to a date with another dude. Yeah, I wasn't prepared for that either. Well, I know we're not dating, but I still feel like I want to judge this guy. Can I meet him? That would have been weird because I was on my way to like a bar crawl by myself that night. It's not sad. I was trying to ride out a panic attack, and I don't go to therapy. I wind up on my one-man bar crawl at the place this girl's having her date, and I'm like, oh, I should like send over a drink. I know her drink of choice because we spent a heck of a lot of time together, including a couple sleepovers where she fell asleep on my couch making me hold her while I just watch TV because it's hard to sleep when you got a girl laying on top of you guys. Realizing as I sent the drink over that night, I didn't make eye contact with that girl or her boyfriend. Like she didn't know I was there, so I was like, oh man, I might have ruined this. I should leave. And I left before the drink got there, but I did still take a minute to look out the window. Like she was just confused where the drink came from. That's how that went. I like to say her stories were more interesting than mine, but I honestly don't remember them. She talked about herself a little bit. She lived with her parents. She was sad about it, which I didn't understand because I lived with my dad until I was 31. I literally only moved out like a year ago. And he didn't even say like I should be ashamed of it or it's weird or anything. The reason I moved out was he just said one day, you know, you can still take your time, but at this point, the realtor would appreciate it. So that was fun conversation. Date kept going along. I got confused at the point where we're talking about our jobs because she was confused by my day job. As I'm an attorney and I basically sort documents all day. And the question comes up all the time, like, don't you want to be a real attorney? And I was like, no, person who met me doing stand-up. I'm not even sure these people know what that means because, like, do I want to work in a courtroom? Like, that might seem like it's fun to watch me try to negotiate a plea deal with a prostitute, but even if you're getting someone off with a clean record, prostitutes are not easy people to negotiate with. maybe it's like, try working for a law firm sometime. Like, oh, no, I don't want to do that either. The last time I did that, I had a boss. He liked to just come into my office and punch me. Just like, bam. What you gonna do about that? I think I'm gonna go back to work, sir. I really need this job. I worked there for 18 months, and that didn't happen just once. So, end of the day, she ended up paying for my food. So I think it went pretty well. Although maybe she just thought I was poor because I also mentioned that I sell plasma for money sometimes. But we'll never know because there was no second date. Thank you guys very much.
There's so much to unpack there. I'm picturing you when you said that drink to that one girl, her looking out the window and you just standing in the rain watching her, just seeing if she's happy with it. If, by the way, if you're watching this and this looks fun to you, we do this show every month. And we have people who are first-timers, or people who go up all the time. So just let me know after the show, or we also have a Let's Just Say Facebook page that I can tell you more about a little later. So just keep that in mind. But right now, let's welcome our next storyteller. Please give it up for Andy Burt.
The aforementioned Andy Burt. This is my first time at one of these storytelling events, but don't feel sad for me because this story I'm about to tell is entrenched in my brain. That's a nice thing about trauma, is that you never forget. I grew up in the affluent downriver community of Wyandotte. For a long time, I thought the word affluent meant a place where a lot of people get the flu. So in that regard, Wyandotte is the most affluent city. As far as the real meaning is not. The date of the story was June 14th, 1994. I was 13 years old. I forgot there's a theme. The theme is firsts. This story is about my first heartbreak. Not the romantic kind, although that would come later. And then it would happen again, and again, and again, and again, until the day I die, I'm sure. But it's okay. Make for another good story. So, I should mention, my dad was a barber. He still is a barber, actually. He's 42 years as a barber, which is nuts. But anyway, so he's one of these old-timey barbers where he's friends with all of his customers, so a lot of times the customer just kind of swindle him and give him like bull crap gifts instead of just paying him money, which has caused problems in his marriage and as a father. I always call him the breadwinner because he literally, sometimes his customers will pay him in fancy bread. To make a point, one time, this was a little bit later, I was probably 23 or something, he came home and he's like, "Hey Andy, don't tell your mom, but a customer gave me this," and it was a Coke bottle that had Clay Aiken and Ruben Stoddard on it. He's like, "You ever see this? It's from that show, Teen Idol." Not like that, it says American Idol. It's not Teen Idol. These men are in their 20s. And they're fabulous entertainers. Most of your dads probably have pretty nice 401ks at this point. My dad does not. He has a collection of collectible Coke bottles, which is nice. When I looked it up on eBay, it's actually worth $200 million. So it's kind of a surprise. Good job, Dad. Anyway, so back to June 14th, actually, so this is like 1992. I should set the story up a little bit. So one day he comes home from work and his customer paid him with a dog. There's this dog, and he's like, hey, guess we have a dog. And this dog looked, you ever see like those homeless dogs in like Oliver and Company or Lady and the Tramp? You know how they always have like that one homeless dog? And he's got like that weird beard. You know what I'm talking about? My mom would be like, he looks like a rat. Get him out of here, he looks like a rat. He didn't. No one in my family liked him. My dad's like, you're right, I should probably take him back. But I was like, no, I love him. I named him Bo because that was the time of Bo Jackson. Bo knows baseball, Bo knows basketball, Bo knows eating our furniture and shitting on the floor. I had to change his name because you would say no, and he couldn't differentiate no from Bo, which was his name. So we changed it to Mike, who was my second favorite Ninja Turtle. My first favorite Ninja Turtle was Donatello, but that was a secret because my friends would think I was a nerd if I told them. Donatello was my favorite. Looking back as an adult, I'm like, why the hell Donatello? I didn't like science or math. Anyway, so Mike and I, he really was my only true friend for a while. It was that weird period of 12 to 11 to 13 where boys just don't have friends unless they're assholes. So anyway, so he was really my only friend. I remember one time he was eating the furniture and shitting on the floor as usual. My dad got pissed and he hit him with a newspaper, spanking his butt. And I was so sad and I was crying, even though I wasn't getting spanked with a newspaper that night. But old Mike, he came up to me and he started licking my tears away, and it was just the sweetest bond. Even though his ass had to hurt pretty bad. But so anyway, June 14th, 1994. It's one of the first days of summer break. My parents are at work, and it's me and my sister. My sister at this point would have been 16, and she sucked. Like a 16-year-old girl, she totally sucked. I don't think she's here. I think she always does that thing where she like puts going on Facebook invites and that doesn't actually go. So I think I'm in the clear here. But so anyway, she was out suntanning and it was like 11 a.m. and I just found out that Full House was in syndication. I'm like, oh my God, I have to tell Jenny. So I run out. Like, Jenny, Full House is on. She's like, I don't care. 16 years old. And I'm like, why isn't the gate open and where's Mike? So I look and Mike, my dog, is nowhere to be found. And then anyway, she's like, I don't know, whatever. So I come to find out, like, she revealed this to me a couple years ago, that she left that gate open on purpose, but I didn't know that at the time. She sucks. So anyway. So I go out running, looking for that dog. I get my bike, just looking everywhere that he normally would be. He normally would run out and he would just like kind of stay at the end of the block because he wouldn't know where to go. This time I couldn't find him. And anyway, so my mom comes home from work and I have her drive me around. I can't find him anywhere. It's about 8 o'clock and it's a Friday night. And I'm like, I just want to go home and watch TGIF. Family Matters was the 8 p.m. time slot. At that point, Full House had moved to Tuesday at Yom. So I turn on the ABC and Family Matters is not on because apparently O.J. Simpson decided to get in a Bronco and flee from the police at a very slow pace. So I'm just this devastated child. All I want to do is watch Family Matters because I can't find my dog, and O.J. is eluding the police. And I have to watch it. So I change it. I'm like, well, the NBA Finals is on. I change it to Channel 4. OJ is on that one. The Stanley Cup Finals were on. Again, OJ. I better wrap this up before you guys are worried about what happened to my dog. So anyway, so a week later, in the Downriver News Herald, there's an ad that says, hey, found dog. And my parents were like, you know what, maybe don't go get that dog. And I was like, F you, he's my only friend, blah, blah, blah. So I walked my ass down, like, across the city. The people have the dog on the porch, and they're like, "Here he is," and I'm like, it's not my dog. And I knew it because I know what my dog looks like, but my dog has like a white cross. My dad always said that was because he was a Christian, which was nice. I said my dog gave his heart to Jesus. But they're like, "Are you sure it has this like white?" I'm like, "It's not my dog, man. You know your dog." So anyway, if any, long story short, I never found my dog. He would be 26 now. So in dog years, oh fuck, man, he's dead. Anyway, I hope you enjoy the rest of the stories.
Cold shit your sister did.
I know.
Our next storyteller is a longtime music journalist covering the local music scene. He runs a music podcast and also a long-running music blog. Please welcome Jeff Milo.
Alright, hey everybody. So I'm going to start my story. Can I start it over here?
Yeah, you can like have some grapes.
Oh boy. So this story goes back, we're going to start, it's May of 2006. It's a Saturday, first week. It's a beautiful day, 2 cars, each filled with 5 22-year-olds and 4 22-year-olds and a guy I've never met who might be 30 or 35. All of my roommates, we just spent 2 years living together in a house in East Lansing, and we graduated from college 24 hours prior to this. We decided that we wanted to make a spectacle of it and drive west on 94 to Sleeping Bear Dunes and spend the night camping and maybe take some psychedelic drugs. Maybe. That's where the 32-year-old came in. I had never met him. He might have been named Tim. He had a very bedraggled look about him. And I'm just going to refer to him throughout the rest of the story as our handler, because we figured if we were going to be out in the wilderness with heads full of acid, one of us had better be straight and somewhat mature. So he was going to keep an eye on us, I guess, and be our sort of park ranger. I had never done this. I'd never taken drugs before. My drug of choice was just past blue ribbons. I was a pretty straight shooting, average college kid. But gosh, I mean, I just like, we had just had a giant house party in this house. I had gotten maybe 2 hours of sleep that Friday night, and we got up Saturday, and I packed all my shit into my car because my life was about to begin. And then everyone's like, let's get into these cars and go over to the beach, and we're gonna maybe take some acid. And that's what happened. I didn't even take a sleeping bag. I just got into the back seat of a car and said, all right, this sounds great. Let's do it. So we all get there and we all spill out of these cars. It's Pure Michigan, Lake Michigan is right there. It's a beautiful, beautiful night. I'm not even worried about not even having a sleeping bag. And we all line up, the 9 of us, like it's like we're about to receive medals or first communion or something, as like Tim just starts walking down, delivering our. I'm last in line, so I don't know what's happening. I'm like, oh, what are they getting down there? And like everyone's like sort of getting something from Tim as he comes down the line. Tim finally comes to me and he's like, so I have a tab of acid, or I have some shrooms. And I was like, I was like, both? And I downed them like aspirin. And then my 2 closest friends in this 9-person circle come to me and we form this quick triangular conference, and they're like, which one did you take? Oh, just the acid. No, it's gonna be great, let's do it. They're like, yeah, we're really excited about this. Let's just have a really nice night together. We're gonna taste colors. We're gonna levitate, we're gonna see the future, it'll be great. So the 3 of us start wandering off, and I think Tim is the one who starts a fire. Oh, I'm sorry, our handler. Our handler starts this big bonfire right around the sand, and we start sort of just gathering around it and just waiting for the acid to take hold. And my two closest friends, Marty and Lisa, we just sort of wander around the dunes, and we're just having a nice little, cute little acid trip. It's nothing really, we didn't have a bad trip, I didn't freak out. The sky looked purple. The ocean was breathing. You know, maybe I had nothing, I didn't like see things. It wasn't like 2001 Space Odyssey, but it was okay. And apparently I didn't take enough shrooms for it to be a lethal cocktail. But my friend Everett, back at the bonfire, starts talking to himself. And we're not, was he talking to us? But he like starts addressing someone casually. He's calling out to aliens. Casually at first, the way you would like call up to your mom, like, "Mom, is dinner ready yet?" He's like, "Aliens?" and we're kind of like trying to make sense with a one-sided conversation that he's having with these aliens, and he's coming out to the ocean, and he's sort of like, or the lake, I'm sorry. He's coming up and he's just staring off into the horizon like the aliens are out there, and he's just like talking to them. And eventually the conversation escalates because he seems to think that the aliens want him to jump in the fire. Which he almost does a couple of times. But our handler pulls him back. But it doesn't get pretty because he's having a bad trip, which is making all of our good trips into a bad trip too. We're all getting really worried. And Everett storms off because he's mad at the handler for keeping him from jumping into the fire. I think only 5 minutes pass before he comes back without any clothes on. Socks and shoes are off, and his heels are in the fire before we pull him out. And he was okay, and he's alive today, so don't worry, but still having this very bad trip with very bad aliens telling him to jump in this fire. And it was, I had this head full of acid, and my friend walks out, and there's this bare ass right in front of me. It's happening very fast, but very slow all at the same time. I'm processing that he's naked, and then I have to process very quickly that he's in fire. And then he's out, and he's not on fire, but then he storms off again into the woods, and he's gone, naked in the night. And the handler just is like, "All right, relax. He'll be back. Just everyone mellow out around the fire. It'll be fine." So Marty and Lisa and I try to have this trip, and we're like, "Oh God, we're trying to see the purple sky. We're trying to see the breathing ocean, but we can't because Everett is out there. He's very naked and very alone and very on acid. And aliens are going to tell him to jump into another fire if he finds one." And it's like 3 hours. He's gone. I'm sitting on the beach, and I'm just feeling guilt. Like, oh my God, like I haven't fun anymore. Like I feel guilty that I didn't save my friend from this fire. Suddenly, the handler's over there, and he's bringing Everett back, still naked with a coat over his shoulders, still very Winnie Pooh down there. We get him back, and we get him back to the fire, and he mellows out. He's kind of cut up because he's running through branches. He's okay, and he's mellow now. So, long story short, it's my first time on psychedelics. It's my first time being young and stupid at the same time, very much so. But I couldn't perceive what was happening as it happened, and I didn't like that. I know that's supposed to open the doors of perception, but I couldn't perceive that my friend was in danger, and I didn't. It's my job as a journalist to be hyper-focused on what's happening right here and right now, and being hyper-aware of everything that's going on, especially if it's a dangerous situation where I might have to save someone, and I couldn't because I was tripping. So it was also my last time on acid, but I don't know. The story just kind of trails off there. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thank you so much, Jeff. I don't think we talk enough about bad trips. Like, based on like the people I know who've been trying to get me to try psychedelics for forever, like the success rate is like 110%, like according to all these people. So I appreciate, you know, actual things that happen. So I brought this piece of paper because I want to make sure I say all the good things I've written down about this next storyteller. She is a cohort in the Michigan United Women's Leadership Program. She's a regular storyteller at the Anthill. And she's performing in her first comedy festival, the Last Laugh Comedy Festival in Grand Rapids in May for storytelling. Please welcome Jenga Gazman.
I want to say a really special thank you to one of my friends that's here tonight. This is Ray. We've been doing improv together for 2 years, and he is always helping me up my game, so thank you so much. All right. Our chemistry was intense. We would lock eyes across the hallways of North Farmington High School, and my stomach would just tighten. I didn't know who he was. I'm pretty sure he didn't know who I was, but we constantly seemed to be in the hallway at the same time, walking in opposite directions. And it started with like locking eyes, and then we worked up to the nod, smirk, and then eventually he said hi, and then I said hi, and then one night at my parents' house, the phone rang, and he said, "Do you know who this is?" And I had a pretty good guess. He was a senior. He was a varsity soccer player. I was also a varsity soccer player, but I sat on the bench. I was better known for being president of the hiking club and like forensics team. And while my friends had dress-up tea parties to watch Clueless, his friends smoked. So we were kind of like polar opposites. And then we started dating. And we started dating on Groundhog's Day. But our first big date is probably why I know that when Jason and I had lunch, it was not a date. Sorry, I didn't see that coming at all, Jason. All right. So he took me to Lully's in Detroit, when Lully's was still in Detroit. Like, we are like 17, 18, and we are in this like swanky ass, like historic mobster place in Detroit. And all I can think of, like, okay, this is exactly the bad boy that I wanted. Because like my dream, like, male figure was of course Jason Catalano. Like, who watched My So-Called Life? Jared Leto? Anytime, any place, please. So my friends weren't having sex. Like, we weren't talking about sex. People say that sex and violence on TV leads to like sex and violence in real life. I'm pretty sure that I thought sex only happened on 90210, like in the box. I didn't think it extended to real life, so don't ask me where babies come from. Anyways, it was our 3-month anniversary, and we're in his car, and he is driving to some weird places, like I've got a surprise. And like my mind is like, yes, I like him and I like what he's about, but like, I don't want to hang out with his friends. Like, I don't want to be with a bunch of people underage drinking and being stupid. Like, I was such a snob. Like, I mean, like, I told you, my friends were dressing up and watching Clueless. So I'm just dreading this. But he doesn't go to like any kind of party. He takes some kind of side turn. We end up at his house, and it's set up like pseudo romantic. Like, I remember like little lighting. His mother and grandmother weren't there. There were strawberries, and so we're in bed. And this is the moment that I knew that there's not a guy that made me jaded. I was jaded to begin with. Because the words out of my mouth were, "I hope you don't think this is going to make us stay together." I was such a bitch that a high school boy lost total interest in my virginity. So it wasn't that long after until we started sleeping together. And I remember when it happened because it was the day of my brother's bar mitzvah. So if you know anything about people who like perform, they like to be the center of attention. And here we are, standing in the audience for 4 hours, listening to Hebrew, and like watching my brother on stage. And I was like, okay, yes please. And that was that. And the funny thing is like, because my friends weren't having sex or talking about sex, it was like months before my best friend and I, she realized we were sleeping together, because that was baffling. And the first thing that she said to me was, "What is an orgasm like?" To which I quickly responded, "What's an orgasm?" Thank you.
Is an orgasm like? Thank you, Jenna. Our next storyteller is a performer and improviser at Comedy Sports right here in Ferndale. He also runs a podcast about Dawson's Creek called It's All Creek to Me. Please welcome Ryan McGillen.
Hi. So this is actually my first time doing this, believe it or not, but that's not what I'm going to talk about. I think most people, when they lose their virginity, they don't really have to think about it for very long. Like even somebody who is going to do this with somebody that's special to them, somebody they've been with a long time, they only have a day or two before it happens. And I think that's good. In fact, I know that's good because I had 2 months to know that this was going to happen. So the year's 2005, and I'm obsessed with a website called LiveJournal, which, right? It was a blogging site, but also had these things called communities where you could interact with people who had similar interests. So I had posted some self-portraits on a photography community that caught the eye of a young lady. And we began talking, and the fact that I was a virgin and still at 22 came out, and she considered this to be, and this is a quote, and I'm not trying to brag, but she said she considered it to be criminal, and that she was determined to right this injustice. And now I thought this was all talk because she lived in Vancouver, but a few months later we were talking, and she says, "Oh, guess what? My mom and my aunt are taking a road trip to a town 2 hours outside of Windsor, and I'm going to go with them, and I've booked a hotel room and a Greyhound ticket, and on July 12th, you're going to lose your virginity." So now I have 2 months to agonize over this. I was kind of a late bloomer. I'd had a few high school girlfriends and a couple little college things, but nothing ever got physical enough that I could think that I knew what I was doing when it came to that. So I took to the internet and researched. I spent a lot of time trying to find the best brand of condom I could, and looking up all kinds of stuff, all while still talking to her and letting her reassure me that this was going to be fine. And then the day comes. I wake up and I say, in 10 hours, you're going to drive to Windsor and you're going to have sex for the first time. And I start freaking out. Now I know nobody has good sex the first time that they do it. And I also know that my voice just cracked. I know that nobody has good sex the first time they do it, but I was determined to. And so I called one of my best friends, asked him to round up his then girlfriend and meet me for lunch. And at National Coney Island, over chili cheese nachos and fruit punch, I asked them every awkward question I could possibly think of. And armed with as much knowledge as I had before we had lunch, I went off to accomplish some tasks. I had to buy said condoms, and because I'm a romantic, I also wanted to get flowers. So I went to a place where I knew I could do both, my local Kroger. When I get to the section of the store where condoms are sold, my worst fear is realized. They're in a locked case. So I have to go find a store associate to come and unlock the case for me, which felt like it took 10 years. So I go up to the register with my flowers and my condoms, not thinking to buy anything else. And the cashier just looks at my purchases and goes, "Right on." And I turn beet red. As I'm leaving the store, I pull out of the parking lot and I pass my mom. So had I stayed in the store just 5 more minutes, I would have walked into my mom at the door. So now that I'm armed with the flowers, armed is a weird way to say that. Exactly. Armed with flowers and condoms and also a mix CD that I had made for her. I know, right? I head off to Windsor. Now the date is important because Detroit was hosting the All-Star game this year. So there's tons of traffic at the border all coming into the city. I think I'm going to breeze through customs until I'm told, "We want to search your car, but it is so full of garbage, we need you first to go back across the border and clean it out." So now I'm sitting in the All-Star game traffic, and while I'm sitting there, I'm filling up a backpack with garbage, just trying to get the jump on the cleaning out of the car. When I get to the gas station, a homeless gentleman comes up and actually offers to help me if I had any money, so I gave him the $2 I had, as well as a bottle of pre-mixed Manhattans and the backpack. And, so now I'm back across the border with a clean car, and they don't search me. They don't even stop me. They're just like, "Off you go." So I get to the hotel, we meet in the lobby, I give her the flowers and the mixed CD, and we decide we're going to grab some coffee. We find a Tim Hortons, grab coffee, don't talk to each other. We talk on the phone to her to her mom and me to friends of mine that were touring with their punk band. And then we're back to the hotel, and I say to myself, I need to delay this as long as possible. So I say, I'm going to check on the score of the All-Star game, which I could not care less about. And I sit on the edge of the bed and watch baseball for like 10 minutes, and then it settles in, all right, this is apparently going to happen. And it does, and it's bad, and it's embarrassing, whatever. So then this is where things get even weirder. The next morning, she's taking a shower, and the phone rings. And I answer it, because the phone's ringing, and I say hello, and the voice on the other end is it's a woman's voice, and she says, "Ryan?" And I say, yeah. She goes, "This was her mom. Is Sarah there?" And I say, "She's in the shower." And she replies, "Did you guys have fun?" And I said, and she goes, "This is your first time meeting somebody from the internet, isn't it?" And I said, "Yeah." And she goes, "Well, just have Sarah call me whenever she gets out of the shower." So her mom knew why she was there. Now, I have a 2-year-old, and I'm still not really comfortable with the idea that my mom knows I've ever had sex. So I couldn't believe that her mom knew what was happening. Now, the postscript to this story is that we kept talking for a little while, but I got very, very scared because, and again, I'm not bragging, I don't know how she came to this realization or how she came to this conclusion, I should say, but reading her live journal a few days later, she wrote about a friend who had called her, it's just like a hookup friend she had, who had called her and said, "You want to get together?" And she said no because, quote, "It would have been like going from drinking the finest champagne to chugging sour milk." And I got really, really scared by that. I was like, where were you? Or more importantly, where was I? And we didn't really talk that much after that. We just kind of, the friendship fizzled. And then we became Facebook friends. And I saw pictures from her wedding, where she married a fat guy with curly hair and glasses, who looked almost exactly like me. So I guess she has a type. Thanks.
Oh my God. It's like, wow, okay. Yeah. How's everyone feeling? Woo! Have a good time? Awesome. We have 2 more storytellers. Thank you so much for being such an attentive audience. Thank you so much. Please, our next storyteller is a stand-up comedian. He runs a comedy show in Corktown called Prankus with Bart Dingus. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say about him. Please welcome Bart Dangus.
Y'all doing alright? Yeah, cool. Alright, I'm just gonna get this out of the way. Yes, I have a fucking goofy ass boot on my foot. I tried to get the doctor to give me a second one because they kind of look like the brand new Nikes or something. The moon boot version. How funny does this boot look in the ye old tavern? Alright, sorry, I'm defaulting to stand-up mode. Alright, so this is gonna be like my first year in Detroit. Yeah, it's been a lot of things has happened. Like I put out an album, I got on TV for the first time, and then somebody burnt my work down. Yeah. So for the TV spot, it was only one TV, and it was like the live feed that was just in the green room. Whatever, fuck off. The album, like, they came with these little, like, download cards, you know? And I gave a couple to my friends. And I was like, hey, how'd you like the album? He's like, dude, it was great to use to scoop my weed into my joints with. So you see where this is going. As far as my work getting burnt down, somebody fucking burnt my work down. Yeah. So I moved here and like I didn't start doing stand-up, like continued doing stand-up, and I was at a show once and this lady called me the epitome of gentrification. Which like I know gentrification is like a huge thing in Detroit, but the previous 9 months I lived in a trailer on the road. I don't think that's the person you gotta worry about, man. I just want to come here, tell some jokes, you know, have a good time. But yeah, a lot of fucking new experiences. Like I'm from Arizona where there's no seasons. It's like living on the sun, you know. So the seasons were a fucking brand new thing for me. Like my favorite part of changing the seasons was like how the leaves change colors, you know. Fucking, I know nobody even cares anymore because y'all are from here. But like all the different shades of orange and red just fucking floating through the air, it's like a fucking, that's my brother, he's from Arizona too, he's never experienced this either. So I did, you know, to fit in as a Michigander, like I thought what you're supposed to do is you like rake them all up, right? Like I skipped the bagging part and I just put them in the back of my truck. And I drove the fuck away just to watch them all fly through the air again. Like fall came twice that year. 2 for 1. Yeah. Learning how to dress for winter has been a fucking challenge, too. Yeah. Like I just feel like every layer I add, I just look more and more homeless. Still, like I'm 2 years in. I got caught wearing Chucks during my first snowstorm too. That shit sucked. There's not a lot of black people in Arizona. Ooh, careful. So I went to this this black room and it was a stand-up show. And I walked in with my buddy Nick and I'm the only white dude there. We walk in and this fucking giant bouncer stands up to like pat us down, you know? He pats my buddy Nick down, he's good, he doesn't have anything, goes through. And I walk up to the bouncer, you know? I hold out my arms for him, and he just looks at me and goes, nah, you good. I felt like a goddamn child just like walking with a lollipop, you know? It's fucking stupid. Yeah. Let's see, what else? Yeah, what else? What else could happen? Oh, with the restaurant thing too, like, after Well, there's a restaurant that caught on fire, somebody lit it on fire. They rebuilt it, I went back to work, and there was a fucking dumpster fire like a month in. Only the dumpster burned down though, so whatever. Yeah. So another thing that like is a really new experience for me was the whole Canada thing. Because in Arizona we have Mexico. Totally different. I mean, like, both their monies look weird, like I still don't know which one's which, you know? And you know there's like an ongoing debate whether or not the Canadian money smells like maple syrup? For real, look it up. Like, that's a government conspiracy. I love thinking about that, like an official was like, hey, let's make their money smell like maple. And not tell them. But, so one of the first times that I was over there, you know, I'm having a drink at the bar, and I wanted to make sure that I tip them right, you know? I was like, hey dude, like, what's an appropriate tip on a beer? And the bartender goes, a loony or a toonie? Like, I thought he was fucking with me. And I was like, the only thing I got is a Jungus or a Fraggle Doo. He didn't bite. I don't know, I love it here, I really do, I've been having a great time. I really do suggest, like, if you're from a city, like I lived in Arizona my whole life, just fucking go somewhere else and have a little, you know, time. Brings up a lot of different feelings, you know? One other thing about Canada that I noticed is like the crosswalk signs are just vastly different from the American one versus the Canadian one, you know? Like, we all know the American one, like the stance is like, you know, like this. It's like face towards the ground, like back just being broken down by consumerism. You know, that second marriage, third mortgage. Just fucking hell. Like, he doesn't even have a hand, you know? Like, that shit fell off, but he's got to get to that meeting. You look at the Canadian one, though, it's like this. It's just like fucking foot out, but have you smelt our money? So yeah, like, I still keep in touch with like two of my best buddies in Arizona. I talk to them like all the fucking time. And talking about these different feelings, you know, moving away and stuff. Like, they told me this story about how, you know, they had like a wild night, had too many drinks, got on a quad, like a four-wheel, like two dudes, like nuts to butt, you know? And they just took off, and they got lost for 13 hours, like in the fucking woods. And they're telling me this story, and I'm like, I wish I was there. Alright, down Bardangus. Follow me on the internet, at Bardangus, on whatever. Thank you, this is fun.
Pretty sure I know where you worked. So we are, thanks again everyone for coming out. We're down to our last storyteller. Real quick, again, if you have any interest in coming up here and giving this a try, it's super, super fun. You can talk to me after the show. Facebook also, Let's Just Say has a Facebook page. The handle is Let's Just Say Go Comedy. The next show is going to be on April 12th, and the theme is Fooled, with exclamation mark. And we still need a couple more storytellers for that one, so keep that in mind. Without further ado, though, let's give a warm welcome to our last storyteller, Brent Stevens.
A lot of firsts in high school, apparently. I'm going to talk about the first time that I hung out with the cool kids in high school. I was not a cool kid at the time. I wasn't cool yet. This was 1995, I was 15, I was a sophomore, and I couldn't drive yet, but my friends were just starting to get their licenses, my sophomore friends, and at least one of them, Polly, also sometimes hung out with the cool kids. So when Paulie said, what are you doing Friday? And I naively said, oh, nothing, you know, why, you want to do something? Yeah, you're coming with us. It turns out we were going to hang out with the cool kids. We were going somewhere with cool older kids. I put on way too much cologne. I was so excited. It was awesome. And Paulie swings by and he picks me up, and he picks me up in his conversion van. Conversion vans tonight. We called that conversion van Piss and Cheerios because it smelled like piss and also Cheerios. And it turns out I wasn't the only person Paulie was driving over to wherever we were going, because there were like 8 other people in the van when I got in the van. And there were cool kids in the van. There was Julie and Samantha. God, they were so hot. And they were so hot, they dated older guys, that's how hot they were. Like Jeremy, who was the captain of the football team. And he was just this super nice guy who also gave off this douchebag vibe, which is so impressive and so cool. Jeremy's in the van, there's like 6 other people in the van, and so we head out, and there was just so much shit going on in this van on the way to wherever we're going. There were so many cigarettes, and so many kinds of cigarettes. And I didn't know from cigarettes at this point, right? So this was wild. What does that say? And there was music. There's so much music. I mean, it was 95, right? So we're just jamming to Ace of Base, like you wouldn't believe. And I mean hard, right? I mean, it's Ace of Base. It's 95, right? We're jamming hard. And so Ace of Base I knew, but I didn't know this other thing, Bone Thugs and Harmony. And that blew my fucking mind. Are they singing? Are they rapping? They're rap singing. This is unfucking believable. It was the greatest music I'd ever heard in my life. And so there was alcohol. Turns out before we get where we're going, there's already alcohol. And what are you, Jeremy, what are you drinking out of this little glass thing? This is vodka and orange juice. Have you ever drank before? I have never drank before. Okay, you sure you want to do that? Yeah, okay. So he picks up this like half-full 2-liter thing on the ground. Take a swig of this. Turns out there's no angel on my shoulder. I took a swig of that real fast. And it was fine. I was like, oh my God, this is fine. I can do this. I'm not going to die. I can drink this. You okay? You like that? Yeah, this is really good. All right, buddy. That one's yours. Holy shit. So now I've got this giant half-full 2-liter thing of orange stuff. And we're heading out to pick up Tammy. Tammy's next on the trip, apparently. Paulie's also driving Tammy to wherever we're going. And the whole ride, I realized that all these people do is just fuck with each other the whole time. I'm a young, naive, nice person. This is new to me. Just this cool kid fucking with this cool kid, making fun of Paulie because he dropped a pass in the football game. You have Paulie, you fucking pussy. And why do you, everybody who smokes Marlboro Lights, got the pussy cigarette, you're a fucking pussy. My God, everybody was a pussy in this game, right? All the sophomore girls are just being brats and pissed, pretending to be pissed off at all the older guys that are fucking with them. Just pretending, trust me. And I am just blown away. My virgin ears are just shocked at everything that's happening. Why do they fuck with each other so much? These people are significantly more thick-skinned than I am. Maybe that's what makes them the cool kids. I don't know. So, on our way to Tammy's, we pick up like 4 more people. So the music rotation kicks in, and now it's not just badass Ace of Base and Bone Thugs and Harmony. We throw some George Strait in there. We are variety, right? And I mean, we are going so fast down Van Dyke to get to Tammy's. I swear to God, we're going to be in Amarillo by morning. Country music? Country reference?
I got you.
You country fans, you pussy.
No, I do not.
So finally, you know, we get to Tammy's house, right? Tammy's boyfriend, I don't know why Tammy's boyfriend didn't pick her up and take her wherever we're going. Tammy's boyfriend is in the car. He's not a sports guy like Paulie and Jeremy, though. He's only cool because he has detention like at least once a week, which was pretty fucking cool every time. So Tammy's house, somebody's on the porch. No, Tammy's not hanging out with you guys tonight. Either she's in trouble or we're in trouble. I couldn't tell, I couldn't hear. I was hoping they said something like we were in trouble because that'd be awesome. Cool kids are so much fucking trouble, that's awesome. Next thing you know, there's a fight, somebody's yelling, and then there's a drunk uncle involved, and the drunk uncle is like coming out of the house, and if anybody has seen American Psycho, when, is it Christian Bale, is that when he's running at you at the camera, bloody and naked with a chainsaw, right? That's drunk uncle coming at us, or at least that's what it felt like to my 15-year-old eyes. And we are freaking out, and Paulie throws in reverse and backs the fuck up right into the big tree across the way, smacks the back of the conversion van into it. Shit, fuck, shit, I hear from like 13 different people in this van, throws it in drive, takes the fuck off out of the subdivision. There's crying, and there's screaming, and there's laughing, and people are throwing things at each other, and it's all in the van. That's all in the van. And it's just a madhouse, and now people are fucking with Paulie again because he can't drive, and people are fucking with Tammy's boyfriend because of the fucking scene that just happened, and I'm trying to not take up a cigarette habit at this point, and I am just flying through this orange drink. Jeremy wants to know how I'm feeling. You know what, I'm actually feeling pretty good, Jeremy. This is pretty tasty. He kind of looks at me kind of pleased, which almost makes me shit myself. And we keep driving. So much madness. And I still don't know where we're going, right? And then all of a sudden, we drop someone off back at their house. Doesn't make any kind of sense. They're not coming out tonight? They just came out tonight. It turns out we're not going anywhere. This is what we're doing. We dropped like 7 more people off, right? That was it. That was what we were doing tonight. Towards the end, I finish off my drink, feeling a little something, feeling a little weird. Jeremy looks at me again, he says, "You pretty fucked up?" "Yeah, man, I don't know, I'm feeling pretty weird, man." The smirk on his face. And then they all start laughing. It's like, man, there's no fucking vodka in there. I just handed you the mixer. And they're just pouring, they're laughing all over each other, and I just feel like shit. Why would they do this to me? I don't understand. Why are they fucking with me? Oh wait, they're fucking with me! They're not ignoring me, they're fucking with me! This is the best day of my fucking life. So, you know, we wrap it up, a little more music, drop me off. And that wouldn't be the last time I hung out with the cool kids, right? Ace of Base eventually becomes, you know, Third Eye Blind, and eventually I'm a 17-year-old cool kid, treating 15-year-old kids like 17-year-olds. And I guess it was that first night where I truly saw the sign. And it opened up my eyes.
That is it for our show, you guys. Thank you so much for coming out. Give yourselves a round of applause for such a great audience. Give another round of applause for our storytellers. The bar is still open. Please feel free to have another drink, but if not, if you're headed home, please drive safe. Thanks a lot.